And welcome to Mostly Minnesota Music Podcast Edition. I'm Ann Tracy, and I'm here with my co-host,
Heather Baker.
Yes, we are excited. We are excited to talk to some folks who were new to me. We've got James Eugene Russell, Rebecca Hanton, and Trenton Ragar. Ragar, as I was trying to pronounce that. Welcome, welcome. And I could say a little bit about you. Where you put out your first, well, kind of collectively your first EP last summer, but you have long history of music. So if I could just ask you each, maybe we'll start with James to introduce yourselves a little bit, and then we'll talk about you collectively.
Yeah, James Eugene Russell. The three of us have known each other for, probably over 20 years. We spent probably all the lower 48 in Canada together and lots of hours in the van. And then this specific thing I recently put out was kind of more my, more collective, like what I've been doing recently. I took a big break from music, and it's a kind of a collection of songs that I've been working on for a while. But yeah, and then bringing these guys in was pretty much made sense.
So you kind of come from a more, as many of us do, punk rock start our younger days.
Yeah, me and Trent were both little farm kids who probably had too much anger that listened to country music. Or I was, just crazy kid, and so I think when I was 10, it was Appetite for Destruction that I was more into than I was, like the country music of the 80s or 90s. But then as you get a little older, it's like, I think in my early 20s, I eventually kind of find out that like that stuff does exist. It's just, it kind of felt like when I got more into country music in my early 20s, it felt like I was getting kind of like how I got into punk rock, where it's like, whoa, there's this really cool thing that no one's caring about, and that what's on the radio is kind of crap, but there's still like, whoa, there are people playing like that music still. Like, it's not just the old guys. There is guys my age playing it, but you just have to find them. And it's like, I don't know, it felt like it was young, 14-year-old kid finding, you get into like a band like Green Day, and then you find out like all the stuff, all the littler bands, it's like the same thing with the country stuff. It was like, I think I saw bands like Lucero or Hank the Third when he first started playing. It's like, you realize like, whoa, these are guys kind of like me. And then you kind of find out that they're all over the place. And then it's just kind of, I don't know. That's kind of where I've been for a while.
Am I right in remembering that you were in Prairie Sons for a while and played with Lucero even?
Yeah, we did. We opened up for them once at the Triple Rock. It was pretty awesome. Yeah, those guys are pretty cool. They like to drink, that's for sure.
Well, and I have the background to be able to play with folks like that when you're, that's amazing.
Yeah, it was good. And I think Becky's played with them with her old band. She was in the Evening Rig, and they also, I think, did a couple of shows with them, a few shows probably.
Yeah, the last band I was in was the Evening Rig, and we were, we kind of straddled that Americana, and we were still rock as well. We kind of dabbled into both, and we were fortunate enough to play with bands from like Lucero to Hold Steady. That was kind of the neat thing about that band. And then the three of us were in a punk band 20 years ago, and then now we're doing this. But yeah, the last band I was in was the Evening Rig, which we were just talking about this beforehand. I don't remember what year we broke up. That whole phase is a little hazy, I suppose. But it was a great band, and I loved every minute of it. But so I haven't played in a proper project. We all kind of took a little bit of time off. Trenton not as much, but he was in a band most recently. But it's been a little while for me, and it's been 10 years for James since he's played in a band, and so it's kind of nice to do it again under his solo name or whatever.
Yeah.
So
I kind of if you when you listen to it, it's like, yeah, I had to take a break from music to get my head back on correctly and straight, and it's a little bit just come back at it with a clearer head, less self-destructive maybe.
I think that the music very much speaks to that and tells that story. But before we jump into it a little bit, I just trying to give you a minute or two to talk about saying you were in the last band outside of working together.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so James and I go as far back as, so he mentioned we grew up country kids, but sitting in my parents' basement out in rural southeastern Minnesota writing punk rock songs. So back when we were like 16, I think. Yeah, recent bands though. So the three of us were in Cadillac Blindside together about 20 years ago. A lot has happened, a lot of bands since then. The most recent band being a band I was in called Blood Banks. We played a show, I want to say it was about 3 years ago, and I hadn't seen James play for a very long time. And he opened the show with an acoustic guitar and he played a few of the songs that are on the EP.
Oh,
And I remember just being just blown away. And I said, hey, if you ever want to do something with those songs, please ask me to contribute because I'd love to play with you again. And I remember getting that phone call and I was so excited that I was, invited to be a part of this. So.
Yeah, just it felt time to, yeah. I've been sitting on some of those songs. I think like we're almost 10 years old. One of them is almost probably just kind of rewriting it. Probably played it in 4 different keys and just kind of kept on changing and just driving myself crazy. And eventually I was like, I think it's time that I can do it. I just so and it makes obvious sense to have my wife and my basically one of my best friends in the as my rhythm section. Like I always say, the rhythm section is very important to a band, and I would say personally, it's like same thing keeps me steady, keeps me going the right way I'm supposed to be. Don't lose track if I
I was going to say, I love that you have your 2 people alongside of you on stage too, because I just think when you're listening to it, it's such a personal story to have that emotion and that support held for you. Just speak through the music too. It just adds another layer of depth and connection to somebody that may relate or going through. It just makes it that much stronger. I'm wondering, because I think I saw, Trenton, that you had said something that he asked you to write some bass lines. Were you coming from the spot of your emotional place for your friend James here with the sound, I guess? Or was it telling his story and the emotion that you knew from him, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, I think it was definitely channeled. That said, to be honest, I've never played bass guitar in a country band before, so it was a big learning experience stylistically for me as well, which has been super fun and always enlightening. But yeah, I would say it's definitely more about telling his story, and so going back to previous bands, we worked on songwriting together as well. So it's always a connection point for me when I write a bass line. It's really about the lyrics and what the song is trying to convey at that point in time. So I would say most definitely, yes, you hit it on the head.
how do you prepare? I mean, focusing on the lyrics, but suddenly to play it in an entirely different genre, to go from punk to country or what was the phrase that I read? The Midwestern country. It's
country Midwestern. I was it's like a lot of my stuff I love is obviously country music's very southern, but I'm from Minnesota. I love the Replacements and Paul Wester. It's like all that Minnesota music's gonna come in. Even like Midwestern. Like I'm just Minnesota. Like even Chicago and Kansas and Lawrence, Kansas. Like there's lots of cool something about the Midwest sound I love. So it's like I always wanted to somehow, if I could take like something like Graham Parsons, if he grew to be a 40-year-old man and got into the Replacements, that's what I want to sound like. He would have just lasted a little bit longer, heard Paul Westerberg and maybe written some songs. I want to see what that's kind of the direction I'm going for.
I like that. I'm writing that one down. That's and maybe it's time to talk a little bit about the music because I am assuming it feels very much like it is autobiographical.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, or at least starts from there, and then you can take artistic
Right.
liberty. But it's, yeah. So during that 10-year span, how did you get your head on straight? And I mean, like, some of these songs are very,
Well, I mean, these people actually, both of them, were helped me out in those areas, and but it did take just like kind of just not being around it. Is I was just kind of got dark place with just obviously drinking, and I think when Prairie Sons broke up, that was a band had promise, but we kind of were starting to be more of people that drank and then played music uh, also, instead of the other way around where you drank at practice. It was more like we played music at drinking times. But so then it when that band broke up, it was just kind of it kind of for some reason I was just so frustrated because every 4 years I was having to start all and I was such in a bad spot that it just kind of made, since I didn't have music, I just kind of was like I had something else to focus on. So so I just kind of stayed with that for many years, and I would write songs at home, and I remember always lots people would ask like, "Oh, you still play music?" I'm like, "Yes, at home, but I am." So it's basically me at home, just kind of when wasn't in a whatever state I just try to write what I was bothering me and what was thinking, and I have lots of books with this stuff I can't understand when I'm writing, but obviously I was probably pretty emotional about it, and I've worked out some of the stuff, and that's what some of the songs are. Just and eventually, I get I went I became a father, and I realized I was still in those. I couldn't stop, and as much as I wanted to, so then I went to rehab, and because I just didn't want to, I started to not like who I was, and just that whole not caring part was fine, but when you're a dad, you're like, holy shit, that's you can't do that, it's just so either way, I just kind of had to rehab, and people helped me out with just kind of and just getting out of bars and getting away from all that stuff, working in them or being around them all the time. Um, yeah, and I eventually became a mailman. All I do is walk around, match numbers. But, it's like pretty cathartic, yeah, and then eventually I was like, that thing that was missing in my life was the music part. Because so I just felt it was time to bring it back. I think I could handle it, in an adult-like fashion. So yeah. I think I've said like like when I was a kid, music saved my life as like a little kid, because you're like got no friends or you have those few friends and you gravitate and like music's kind of what saved your life, but then it almost killed me later. Because then it's like you kind of get into the whole, like I said, like your influences and your idols are people like Graham Parsons or Willie Nelson or not Willie, like Hank Williams.
should not live as long as Willie, but to be
Yeah,
fair,
well, see, I was gonna say he's not the good
he makes
example.
some choices.
Yeah, but I mean, like I think Hank Williams or like somebody great, like it was kind of cool to be like, oh, you want to be this person, you got to be this person. But then you kind of realize like that's not something you can really do for very long. And then, in the way things are nowadays, like there's so many musicians like Jason Isbell singing about being sober, and lots of mental health and all that stuff is way more fine to be a sober musician when it used to be kind of like if you didn't have a bottle of whiskey on stage or if you weren't kind of slightly hammered, like you weren't really cool, or I don't know. It's just you kind of fall in that trap of like this is what you're supposed to do, and then I definitely did. And was, but I feel it feels comfortable seeing like fellow people you look up to are now in a different path, and I think like Tyler Childers, I think is also a sober musician too. It's like it's just good to see that, So
I suppose if they're going to last that long, they have to
yeah,
make different life choices. I mean, like Willie, like
Yeah.
all those musicians, it's like there comes a point and they find enough success, but then they're on the self-destructive path, and then they figure it out that they have to get clean in order to reach their full potential in a way, you know?
Johnny Cash is the classic.
But
You know,
Yes. Yeah.
You know.
yeah, it's like all that stuff. It's nice to. It's just nice that all that stuff is a little bit more. You don't have to be. You know, it's not. Doesn't. You don't have to be cool and messed up all the time. You can actually.
Would a gift to give to more emerging musicians and to your own children or children child now that you're a father to offer an option that's where you don't have to have the bottle right there, you don't have to have the cigarette hanging out of the mouth, you know.
Yeah, I just don't want them to see. I don't know. It was something I lost like my own self-respect when I was just like couldn't. I was like, oh my god, it's like I just don't want. I want them to have something, like a better role model. So it's like, I don't know. It's just that's you hear about the kids of people that don't, like musicians that did drink all the time or did that. It's like their kids, they don't get along with the kids. I mean, unfortunately, like Justin Townes Earl overdosed a couple years ago. It's like, his role model wasn't, you go down some of those same paths sometimes. So it's scary, you want to hide some of that stuff from, they'll eventually find out a little bit. I just want to keep it from them, I guess, as long as possible until they'll understand it.
you wrote a song about it.
I did. I did write a song. I have a song, but it's not really meant for them to hear now. It's more just basically just
I mean, I think particularly of Trainwreck, I'm not gonna say it the right way, but a scenic route blackout on a runway train, the imagery and just what an amazing turn of phrase. But that is what it,
Yeah, and that's definitely one of the older ones. And that one I pretty much, that's the one I've written. I've probably played it in different keys. I've had different things switched. It's like that one I did write as a complete alcoholic, and when that's a scary thing. Is like you can hear the cry for help the whole time. It's like, and I'm singing about how much I don't like it, but then yet the next day that's what you do. It's kind of seems ridiculous, but so it's nice to kind of, it's weird, nice to kind of record it and get it done and just have it be a thing of the past and not a current story. That's probably why it took so long to finish it.
But you did. I was going to say, I love the song You Were Right All Along. Gives me the chills. I can't remember, it says something about the part where it's rip your heart on your sleeve and then it gets quiet and then you're like, you're right all along. Like, it's like you're howling a little bit and then the violin and everything gets loud. Like, can you tell me anything about that story? Because I just can't stop listening to that one particular too.
I've been kind of wondering.
Oh, that song,
Oh, sorry.
Oh, it's definitely like the chorus says it all. It's like, you always hear people say all these things to you. You're like, I'm fine. It's like, it's all good. And then it is kind of like the whole song is about just kind of self-medicating yourself for as long as possible and thinking that it's working, just like kind of a, nervous type person. So that always, like when I drank it, it calmed things down and it made me feel like, and it worked out really good for a long time, and then eventually just, there's like only a small window where it's really good. And then, usually you go a lot farther. And then you don't know while you're sleeping on your own couch and how did you get home? No, but it is basically then eventually when it just got bad, and then it's just trying to own up to everything. Like, it's like, you were right. I get it. It was,
It's a beautiful song.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. But it's I don't know if it's to Becky or who it is to, but it's basically like.
Well, in my head, you were saying it to Becky because she is right.
I think the part with the wife and I was pretty, lucky that a lot of people stand by me and stick with me when in so many circumstances, could easily just get out when the getting's good instead of sticking through all the crap. But so that's pretty much what it is. It's just like it starts with the unstableness of it all and using something to feel the wrong way, and then eventually that kind of goes up and down, and then the end is bringing you back up, kind of basically. But I think it's just owning up accountability to just being kind of a crappy person, maybe.
Well, it is because you talk about in that you were right all along the idea of your own civil war. It is kind of coming to terms with what you're doing to yourself, as opposed to a song like "In My Wake," where it seems as if you're looking around at what's happening with those around you.
Yeah. Yeah. Which I'm sorry, say that one again.
The in my wake, I think in my wake, it seems like it's more of a taking a look at assessing the external as much as the internal, whereas you were right all along is kind of recognizing. I think you have a line in there about your own civil war, or personal civil war, or something.
Oh, for sure. And that's kind of was I think while it's all while everything was going on, it's like I knew it was all happening, and that's why you keep, like most people are alcoholics. Like people think that they don't know it, they do. They probably usually do hate what they're doing, but it's kind of trick yourself thinking that you're not that bad, and it can last a long time. And then I think within my wake is that's more of my apology about the aftermath of like basically saying you know sorry it took so long to get to where I am now, and the whole like dragging the lake part is you're not gonna hear about me you know somewhere else dead or in jail or whatever. So basically it's just a sorry for taking so long to get to where I was supposed to be, and so I had to deal with. It's for and lots of people that probably took with me in a long like say in my wake, just like had to deal with the stuff and clean up the pieces and help me get to better places. But so yeah, I think that one's more like the one was more in it. Like train wrecks definitely when I was in it all, and you were right all along was me realizing it all, and then I think in my wake's me saying I'm sorry for all of it.
Not a song about water skiing. I mean, we're from.
Although that would be very Minnesotan.
Sorry, I ruined your fishing spot. Too fast.
Exactly.
I was going to say, you have a list of really impressive people that came on board to help you with this incredible EP.
Yeah.
Were you? Go ahead.
I think partly it was the fact the pandemic happened was made it a little easier because how many bands were home. That would be on tour at least.
I remember you said, yeah, this, COVID's happening, nothing's going on. It's getting at the time there was, it was getting a little bit better. And then, he's like, well, Jeremy Tapero is home. He doesn't live too far from us. Maybe we could, I could start going over there and scheduling time when he's home. He's not on tour with Soul Asylum. He's not doing anything. And then Trent had the idea, when we were kind of finishing up all the touches, he's like, Ryan Young, the Travel by Turtles guys aren't home. Why don't we call him and see if he can't put some fiddle down? Because that was kind of the last piece of the puzzle. So it was sort of a quarantine kind of thing, and I don't think you were James, I don't think you were planning on recording. And we were kind of waiting for it to be done, but then it never stopped, and so we just said, you know what, let's do it.
Well, when I talked to Trent about playing music, we actually came over and we started practicing a little bit, and I honestly thought I was going to start, I'll just kind of play by myself at some places and just kind of work up some songs and eventually record with a band or whatever. And then pandemic happened and everyone was just like home, and so practice didn't really happen. Trent wasn't coming over anymore, yeah, and Jeremy Tapero, I knew he was in town, and I saw something on Facebook how he just finished a record for somebody, and it was all remote, like people are all in different spots, and I heard it, I was like, oh, it sounded great. I was like, and I knew he's really good at doing that stuff, but then actually hearing like not any of those guys, some of those guys never met. There was a guy that did stuff in Europe, and I was like, whoa, it sounded like they're all together in a room. So I basically said like, hey, how would if I come? I just want to. So me and Becky went down there and did the basic tracks, just the two of us, vocals, acoustic, and drums, and then I gave it to Trent, and then he came in and did his bass tracks eventually. And yeah, like I basically with everyone home, I was able to think of who I wanted to make the sound I wanted that I heard in my head. I could be like, well, this guitar player, Blair Krevenek, um, plays in town, like plays in a band like Dolly's, played in Sunday Night and Lakers. Um, um, uh, I just knew he could play that style I was looking for. That kind of like we talked about many years ago. We talked about our love for the Replacements and Graham Parsons, and that's when I found out he was like a huge James Burton fan, which is Graham's guitar player, and Elvis's guitar player. So I was like, that was one of his favorite guitar players. I'm like, oh, well, that's who I want to play guitar in my records. That's who his idols are, or people he's into. Like, well, that's the sound I want. So I got him, and he did it.
He asked him, I think, like 10 years ago to play on his record, and Blair said later, he's like, "Yeah, no, I remember you. I totally remember you, James." But yeah, so James asked him to play on his solo record 10 years ago, and it finally happened.
Yeah, and then the pedal steel guy is a friend of mine from Colorado.
You used to tour with.
Yeah, he used to be in a band called Hot Rod Circuit. Cadillac Blindside did many shows with here and there throughout the states, and we didn't keep in touch. Just there wasn't the Facebook or all that stuff back, all that things. But I did, yeah. Well, even it was before that, even I think. I knew he started playing pedal steel in like bands like Limbeck and this band called Drag the River out of Colorado. He was just a really good pedal steel player, and I always thought like, oh, I wish I could have him on a record. Like with Prairie Sons was around, I was like, oh, he'd be really cool. But then back then it was like, well, you have to get that guy in the studio. But this way I was like, whoa. So I sent the tracks to him next, and then basically he sent all what he did to it next, and it was this like puzzle that just kept on. All the pieces were finding the place, and we needed the right fiddle player, and seriously one of the best in town, Ryan Young, and he was the one that said he's home, get a hold of him. Didn't know him personally, but I just have a lot of mutual friends with him, and so I contacted him, and then and it basically sounded as exact. I haven't had many recordings where it's like, whoa, this kind of is exactly what I was wanting this to sound like. There's some of the best musicians are, I was kind of blown away with like how amazing it, even for myself, just like that. When you do it that way, so used to like months and months of practicing or whatever, or years or till you record. I've never done it where I would just kind of do a bone and then other people are and like, it was a different experience. Definitely never done it like this before. But I'm pretty happy with it. Technology's pretty cool.
I was gonna say, yeah, I couldn't imagine hearing all of it come together and have your story come to life like that, just piece by piece, and like the last 10 years kind of piecing itself together too.
Yeah, no, it felt really good to see all that stuff, like the actual songs, like being like, oh my God, this is that. Finally hear all those things together. It was pretty cool.
Well, it's also cool that like, there's so many old friends and like we knew Jeremy Tapero from way back in the day, and he's gone on to do pretty incredible things, and he lives 5 minutes, 10 minutes away from us, and so that was kind of neat. And then like, yeah, finding the pedal steel guy, from an old band, that we used to know 20 years ago, and he lives out in Colorado, and it was kind of reconnecting old friends over the internet in the middle of a pandemic.
And even just like the artwork was at Rezak. Brian, he did like some like Cadillac stuff, and
I grew up with him.
yeah,
So
we've all played in bands with him too, and the photos to even the mastering was like Matt Allison from Chicago, who I've recorded with. He's done some of those cool like Alkaline Trio and the Lawrence Arms, or like punk bands in Chicago. But it was just dealing with all these kind of a mixture of like old people I've worked with before, and then like a newer set of group of people, and then and I think the last maybe like harmonies, this is something I didn't want to screen, I to try to hit those higher registers, so I just got um, my good friend Justin Courtney Pierre, he thinks in Motion City soundtrack sometimes he has asked him about, I always liked his voice, and I know he could sing higher notes without, better, like me or whatever. Asked him, and then I got Faith Boblet also for the harmonies, because I want a female voice on there too. I feel pretty lucky and to be like, oh, I need some harmonies, and I get like two great singers to do harmonies. So it's just all over the place. It's just like,
I was offering to sing, but I can't hit a note.
The next album.
No, you don't want to hear it. You don't. I promise.
Play piano instead.
it was weird putting together songs though through emails and like telephone calls, and it's like that guitar solo was cool. You tried to make it more twangy at the end, or something. I don't know. It was really weird. Instead of normally you're like, hey, that's awesome at practice, but this was straight. I'll get like this back, and then I just communicate either for text messaging or emails, or sometimes probably less phone calls. So it was just weird. That was like I said, it was just it sounds awesome. I love the way it turned out. I guess I used to make fun of Axl Rose with the Use Your Illusion. When I heard that they recorded that whole record in different spots, and when I was a kid, I was like, that sounds lame. Who would ever want to do that? And now everyone's doing it. So.
I was going to say, it might be easier to be truthful rather than I can't look you in the eye and that I didn't like that or whatever. You could just be like, I need the twang, or, I don't know.
Oh, yeah.
Just don't start.
Be direct.
Yeah. But yeah, no. But
The question is, moving forward, would you do it again? How would you do it?
I honestly, it's weird. It does work out nice. I mean, it's worked.
Well, the cool thing is now that we found like the local musicians that play just as well as the instrumentation on the record. So now the next record may look different because we won't have to, I mean, like, there's a pedal steel player that's playing live with us now on occasion, and then Blair's playing with us live. So he'll be writing his own parts. I think the recording will feel different next time, but maybe there'll be a little bit of that. I don't know.
There could be an in-room thing, but I think some songs occasionally might be this way because it's like, wow, you can do this thing like that, and it sounds like that, and like that's pretty cool. Yeah. So, but yeah, we do have a solid band in town. Like, yeah, Blair is playing with us. So like, I mean, we did play a show. One of the shows we played, I had no clue what the guitar part was going to be until we played the show, because sometimes we don't get together all the time, and it is even demos, new songs, or I'll send them, here's the new song, and I sent them a new song and we couldn't get together beforehand. Something happened and we couldn't do it, and I was like, okay, and basically it was like, like the song started, and I was hearing the guitar part that he was playing for the first time, and I was just nervous I was gonna look over and go like, that's awesome, but yeah, so it's just a completely different way of doing it, but it all works. I think it honestly, with us being parents and practice spaces and trying to get people so we can all go to one spot, sometimes it works just to kind of do it again and kind of do it remotely and work it out together. And yeah, it's like, sure, we might not be as tight as a band that practices twice a week. it works out really. The pandemic's actually kind of shown that a lot of things can happen remotely. People with their office jobs to musicians. Oh, it's crazy.
Look at what we're doing.
Yeah, here we are. Look at that. We're not in the same room and doing an interview.
That's exactly. That's we always say that, sometimes we were the radio show when people come into the studio and that's fun, but it's a much shorter time. You can only, you have to get concentrated on your dimension. And if you don't have to be in the same space, you can talk longer. That's a nice part of it, but
Have to.
And people also don't know how short I am either. So
you're in the right crowd for that.
Yeah, I was going to say, definitely.
really
The
close.
transition to bringing to playing live has been going well because you have some shows coming up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Ken.
Sure, I can.
Yeah,
I can rattle them off. I think we've got this coming Tuesday. So that's going to be June is the 28th. Right?
Yep.
In Sioux Falls, South Dakota, at the Icon Event Center with Joshua Ray Walker. He's a Texan-based country artist who's really great and kind of riding a wave right now, I think. Then that same Friday, which is July 1st, we're playing locally here in Minneapolis at the 331 Club. That's a free show. So no excuses coming out. Then in the middle of July, on July 13th, we're playing at the Ice House. That's on East Street with a fella named Cousin Curtis. And then
He's a Michigan-born bluegrass player.
Transplant. He lives in Colorado now.
Yeah, I think he's Michigan-based, but lives on Colorado. But he tours pretty extensively.
Yeah, he's pretty good. So we're excited for that one. And then the last show is July 29th. That's at the Amsterdam. So we're going out of town again over to St. Paul.
Yeah.
And playing the Amsterdam. A great local band who made a record release party. It's the American Spirit Pros. They're fantastic.
Yeah.
So it'll be a really fun show.
Big fan of theirs, so felt really good when they asked us to play that. Especially when record release shows are always special to a band, so when you get asked to play someone's record release show, it's you feel pretty honored, I think. So
It is an honor. Absolutely an honor. Well, that gives us plenty of opportunities to come and see it. I'm going to pick the one that has the best air conditioning. That's how I live. But good. I mean it is nice. It's nice to have the times where we can get out and see people again, and it's got to be interesting to play after, as you said, you've made the EP and it's such a different way. How does it feel now to play this live in front of folks?
feels pretty good. No, and that's another thing that's different. Some of the shows I'm having 6 people on stage feels pretty crazy sometimes too, compared to just a 4-piece band. 6-piece, sometimes it's like a ska band, but it's country. No,
Need some horns.
And it's kind of nice because he can play solo. We're going to be playing as a duo. I'm going to be playing piano actually in Sioux Falls later on this summer, and there might be. That's what's kind of nice about a solo record is that you can have so many different incarnations of the band.
Yeah, some shows that we have just done as a 4-piece with one guitar, and then we're gonna be the next shows will be with a pedal steel player also, and played Mortimer's, and we also had a fiddle player at on that show, and August we're playing the Sioux Falls, just the 2 of us, and in that show I'm billed as James Eugene Russell and his better half. I told him to make sure that they're
Nice.
and usually when it's a full band here, I always like to say that one's James Eugene Russell and his enablers. Got different, whatever incarnation. I got to figure out what I'll call it. It's kind of fun.
Kind of creates a different show each time, so you got to keep going to every single one too. See what format you got.
Yeah, and some of the singers I've been watching over the last decade or couple, I guess going back with Justin Towns Earl. I think all the times I saw him, I would see him as a full band, it would just be him and a mandolin player. There was one time, a couple times, it was him, a bass player, and a fiddle player, and by himself. And it was like to be able to do the songs have different like different take up things you didn't notice before with the other stuff over. Like they have different life or things stick out. Lyrics sometimes stick out differently. And then
Get one of those bass drums and like
No.
play.
I have a hard time remembering. I have a hard time remembering my lyrics. I don't know. Yes,
One man band.
that's too much.
That is a good way to think of it, and a reason to first to go and see you in many of the iterations, because it is fun to see how
Yeah.
it plays out with different.
And some of those, sometimes it's like even if you don't like my music or my voice or anything, it's like some of the people I play with, it's like just watch them, they're pretty damn good. Like yeah, it's like yeah. AJ Shrubus played fiddle, plays all over town. He's great, and so it's like and then Adam Schmitz, the pedal steel player. They're all like, and then yeah, with Blair, it's like some of the best musicians in town. It's crazy. So it's just watching them play is pretty fun and entertaining for me. Hearing my songs, like I'm just like, damn.
It can be distracting.
Yeah, it is. It can be distracting even on stage. You just like you kind of want to just watch, and you're like, oh crap, I gotta start singing again.
Me.
So.
Now we're gonna watch for that.
It's fun to see, people get lost in their own enjoyment of playing with your bandmates, or just having that close tightness as a attendee. Like I love to see the charisma and stuff on stage rather than everyone's looking forward and just doing their thing because they are like, I want to get the fuck out of here, you know what I mean? Rather than, I don't know, it just adds that extra element of the playfulness too.
Yeah, but they got their show face.
Yeah.
No, I think that kind of does come with the fact that we didn't practice for 6 months or 8 months or whatever. The fact it is all these things, and like it is still kind of fresh when I watch it happen. And I was like, "Whoa, this is."
I literally did not meet a guitar player Blair until we walked on stage at our first show last November. So,
that's what I'm
which
saying.
is not what I'm used to playing music. You get in a room, hatch it out for months, and then go perform. This was like go up and make it happen. That's a different kind of fun. It's great.
And I know that's something that country music's been doing forever. Bluegrass people do it all the time. Like where they will come in, but that's where I'm like, the talent of those musicians, where it is just like the way that the like true pickers were like they're incredible and they can just kind of jump in and just it sounds like, oh, you've been playing with this guy. It's like, no, you just met them. It's like, but they're that good. Those people that just get paid to play and or at least know how to just do that. It's just, to me, it's remarkable, and I'm always jealous. I wish I could have been a lead guitar player. But yeah, but you know, so it's kind of cool that it is kind of fun. It's like it makes the shows a little more fun because I'm kind of getting to entertain myself just by some of that stuff. So it's yeah. Different.
Did I hear a rumor? Oh yeah. I was gonna say, is there a rumor that it's gonna become vinyl too? The as is.
Yes.
At some point.
So pressing plants are like super backed up because of the pandemic, and yeah, I mean, I think that there's even a couple, 1 or 2 plants opening here in Minnesota.
Eventually.
Because there's so much demand for vinyl right now. And I think a lot of, I mean, like when you got Adele, who put out a record, she's going to take over, a pressing plant for a month. And so little artists, doing, 1,000 copies or whatever, they're not the priority, which I totally get. And so there's a really long turnaround time for vinyl right now. I think we put it in a couple months ago, and they told us like 9 to 10 months. So we'll have a vinyl show, I'm sure.
It's usually 9 to 12, I think.
Oh.
So it's probably going to be next year when it comes out. I mean, it took a second to get everything all together to where we wanted to do it or how we could do it. It was always wanting to be a physical thing.
It's really cool. It's going to be like a 12-inch vinyl, like because it's only 4 songs, and so it would have been weird if you know, he didn't want it like a 10-inch or a 7-inch or something. So one side is going to be the etched logo, and then the other side will be the music. And so that'll be kind of neat that you don't have to flip the record, and then have something to look at as you're putting it away, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to. 10 inches get lost in music in music stores. That's not lost, but I mean, like, I wanted something so like it's with all the other records. I didn't want this little thing up down in there. But also, I didn't want somebody to have two songs on a 12-inch and have somebody pay 15 or however much it is just for a big record. So I thought might as well make it at least interesting, and so it all plays on one side, which I like. So just the songs play straight through, and then the other side just kind of has and that kind of goes with like the punk rock side of things, where like records, weird color stuff, and all these weird things that would happen. I mean, nowadays everyone's doing like everyone does colored vinyl and does lots of weird things. But when we were growing up, it was definitely like, yeah, punk bands would just do like something stupid, and they would make like 200 of them, and something really weird. Like, well, some bands, like, they did 4 7-inches and it made it a puzzle. Like so many weird. Yeah, there's so many things. I love that stuff. So that's kind of what made me think about it. It was like I want it to look kind of cool, at least so it's like a thing that it's. I don't know. It goes back to like where you can like cherish that item, and it's not just the music; it's a whole thing. And with the lyric, I didn't want to insert, so I put all the lyrics in the artwork. They're either upside down, backwards, and I even hid some weird things in there I always want to find out if someday people, what's this, or is that? Oh, hey, I found that. I'm like, oh, finally, somebody told me. There's like I don't know, probably at least 3 or 4 things. I'm curious if anyone's going to ask me about them.
That's why it's so long for the vinyl to come out, because James
No.
was.
But no, just like weird. It's something fun to make it like if it's only gonna be 4 songs, I wanted to make it kind of at least something kind of fun. Before we do like the next record would be then just like a proper LP type of yeah. No.
It makes the music tangible in a way that we don't always experience when we're listening to everything off Spotify or Amazon Tunes, Apple Tunes or something. So it's nice.
I love all that stuff. I mean, it's easy to. It's hard to. I mean, there's so many times I'm like, oh, the record's over there, but now it's playing right now. It's like, feel a little dirty sometimes, but it is what it is.
It's better than having to make sure you grabbed all your favorite tapes for the road trip.
The one that you forgot on your dashboard, and you're like,
Or the record you left on the windshield and now it's melted.
Tapes are kind of coming back too.
Yeah. That one's interesting.
The old pencil in the hole to
Rewind.
That's my era. I was first generation Walkman, and I'd come home from England with all these punk tapes that I would, and God forbid anything happened to them. Bobby pin.
Oh, that's so good.
Safety pin.
I had one time I did that, and somehow the thing got switched around and it played backwards.
Oh.
What?
I don't know how that happened. It was just the weirdest thing.
They're a secret message.
Oh, it just was around. It did that, but it did that. It was. I was like, whoa. All that stuff. It was, making mixtapes is a lot of fun. You can't really do that anymore.
It just adds to the engagement. It adds to the fun. So that's good. It's good. I will include this in the notes, but where's the best place for people to find you online?
Just JamesEugeneRussell.com.
Yeah, JamesEugeneRussell.com.
Or and
Okay, the
Instagram.
website.
He's on Instagram.
Yeah.
He's on Facebook. I don't think you're not tweeting, so you're not like or that Elon Musk thing.
Yeah, no tweet.
TikTok. We haven't done TikTok yet. We gotta do more.
Yeah.
Things
Yeah, we have
before
to
can do that.
I haven't done my right dances. Yeah, it's ooh.
So those are the places, and then you've got July 1st at the 331, July 13th at the Ice House, July 29th at the Amsterdam, and I said South Dakota. I can't remember South Dakota on Tuesday on the 28th, but
Yeah, it's at the
Sioux
Icon.
Falls?
Icon. Yep, in
Sioux
Sioux
Falls,
Falls.
South Dakota.
And then the show in July first, the 331. It's with Phantom Fields and a band called The Right Here, which are they're all
Great band.
pretty cool bands. So yeah, but yeah. And I like that show. It's free shows. I think I like those. When you're not really, I'm not trying to make, when you're not trying to make a bunch of money, you just want your friends to come out and like, I mean, just with prices of things, it's nice to offer something free and have people have a good time. It's just like, just come down. Don't, it's not this like guestless spot or like just people can pay $15-20 to see their friends pay. It's like you feel bad asking your friend to come and pay a bunch of money, but when it's free, you're like, dude, just come down. Doesn't matter, if you want to, whatever. I like it.
It's the gift of the 331. So great.
Yep.
Thank you all for joining us. It's been a delight to talk to you. And the record is, it's great. It's a great storytelling journey, and the music is awesome. So thank you very much for that gift as well.
Well, hopefully someday I'll be able to write a happy song. We'll see.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Now the next one's going to be on the upswing, so that'll be good.
Any happy people type stuff. I'm just kidding.